Hey, Ben here with Studio on the Lake. Hey, so today we're going to talk about wood carving commissions. I've been doing a lot of commissions lately, so it's time to talk about those. So, what is a commission? Well, a commission is someone asking you, a wood carver, to do a specific piece of work or a project for them for obviously compensation. So, where do you get your commissions from? Where do they come from? Well, they can be pretty simple in reality. It can be a friend of yours or a relative or something seeing something you carved or knowing you carve and saying, "Hey, I was thinking I need this particular I need an owl to go over this particular thing or whatever." So a friend of yours sees something you've done or they know that you're a carver and they ask you, "Hey, could you carve me this?" All right. So the second place that they might come from is from a studio or a work. So you have a studio. In my case, we've got the YouTube studio here. So someone could see one of the wood carvings or one of the videos on there, or follow the videos, and then decide that they would like to have a carving done for them and their style. It could be you working or having a relationship with an interior design firm, and a lot of stuff comes from those. And that gives you varied carving. It could be your relationship with a cabinet maker who needs something done. It could be out of your relationship with an antique furniture restorer. And in that case, he would come to you, or she would come to you to repair or replace a carving on something that they're refinishing. Another place that might come from is an architect. An architect knows, or you have a relationship with them, or they're looking for something specific, and they would come see you. So what do we got in the background here? This is one of my current commissions, and originally this was done by someone who I've done other commission work for, and they wanted their family crest carved. Initially, it was for about a 16 by 9 crest, and then within a day or so of me saying, yeah, I'd be more than happy to carve that, and throwing a price out there, I was asked, well, can you do 3 smaller ones in the ornament or smaller, say, 5-inch range? And I said, I think so. I think we can do that. So that's what you're seeing in the background as we're going along, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Here's one of the smaller ones, and it did not work, and I'm going to point that out for you. The one that you're seeing in there is in the middle. Somewhere about a 6 by 9 is the majority of this. But it turned out that the 5-inch one, when I did the sample, and we'll talk about samples here, I couldn't get the detail in there and the thing to read the way that I wanted it to read. It needed to be bigger. The details were just simply too small. So how do you go about doing this? So someone approaches you. In this case, we were talking about these shields. So do you need a contract? Can it be a verbal or whatever? It depends on the person that you're in there. So typically what will happen is we start off with verbal communication, a simple, can you carve this for me? And then I say, I think I can. Let's talk about what you've got going on there and what you're looking at. What kind of style would you like to see that in? How big is it? What is it? Kind of wood is it out of? What kind of finish would you like on it? So these are all communication items, and that's the most important part in doing commission work. So your expectation as the carver of what the expectation of the customer is when you're done, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So the design, who's going to do the design? Am I going to do the design? Are we just creating another piece that I've carved, and you just want one just like that? Are you you don't care what it comes out? You like my work and you decided that you would like a piece in that style? Or do you have a specific pattern? In this case, we had a pattern. Obviously, it's a family crest, and the crest has been designed by someone else. So the next question would be in that, out of who designs it? You, me, both of us, a third party, material. Now the big question is, when you start doing commissions, obviously you're going to have a skill level. So you need to ask yourself, when someone asks you to do a commission, can you do the commission? Do you have the skill set to do that? Can you do it in the style that they want you to do it in? Or can you only carve in your style, or want to carve in your style? Do you have the material available? Can you finish the item to the level that it would be expected? So it's quite one thing to carve something that you want to carve, or I want to carve, and then finish it the way I want to finish it. It's quite another thing when someone else is asking you to do specific things in a specific way with a specific finish. So you need to ask yourself, do you have the skill set to do that? Now, let's talk about how I go about doing this. So do you need a contract? That depends. If it's a friend of yours, probably not. If it's a design firm, an architectural firm, or a pattern shop, or a cabinet maker, I would say yes, you probably should have a contract. That contract should spell out delivery times, what you're going to carve, to include specifics and blueprints and samples, and I will talk about samples later on. Who finishes the project, who's putting the finish on it, and that sort of stuff. And then along those lines, we're going to talk about, once it's all agreed upon and you have a contract that would tell about the cost of the thing, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and it'll talk about deposit. So if it's a bigger project, yes, you need a contract, A, to protect yourself, B, to protect the customer, so they know when, where, why, and who's going to do what. So in this case, and you see this in the background, so this is one that I've done, and this is a sample. I would recommend, and I don't do anything unless, I don't do anything without a sample. So I will carve a sample in the style that was asked, in a small piece of a larger piece, and I will show that to the customer. And the customer at that point has an opportunity to make some changes or accept that style. So once you have that, both of you know what's basically going to be produced. So samples are worth their weight in gold. That's a little bit of extra work for you, but it allows the customer to see exactly what you're doing. And this piece you see in the background is a sample. So this is a sample, the first of what's going to be 4 shields, and it's off at the customer now. They've seen videos of it. And then I will be doing 3 shields this size, in all likelihood, by Christmas, which is coming up fairly rapidly. And then I will do the master shield, which is going to be a little bit larger, probably 16 by 19, something along those lines, later next year as time goes by. So you saw this one. I did the smaller samples in this one. I started on a smaller sample, and what I found out was that I couldn't get the detail in it that I wanted, that it was just too small for some of these really interesting details. And these are unconventional figurines on this shield. So they call for, and the style needs to be kind of old school style, for lack of a better reference. A lot of the details, since these are fictional characters, are an artist rendition of that. So let's talk about cost. The style thing probably is not so much of an issue unless someone goes off on a tangent. There are certainly people that will say, can you do this to repair this piece of furniture, or something along the lines of this? And you need to ask yourself if that's something that you're capable of. Now, if you're doing architectural carving, people probably have an architect will probably come involved in that, or a design firm will come, interior design firm will come in that. They have a specific thing that they require. So now let's talk about materials. If you are working with a cabinet maker, it's been my experience, you need to get the same wood that the cabinet maker has. In other words, the wood needs to come from the cabinet maker, the same thing that he's doing the framework from. There's a couple of reasons, one reason for this primarily, and that is the finish. So the finish on 2 different pieces of wood, even the same species from different suppliers, it may come out differently. And if you're getting the same wood that the cabinet maker is using, that takes care of one problem. The second problem to this, and this is just my opinion, I will not usually finish a piece. Very rare. if it's a cabinet maker or something along those lines, or it's going to be included in another project. I will have provide the raw carving complete, and then let the cabinet maker finish it along with the rest of the piece. That gives you some consistency. Now, a lot of times, what I will write in the contract is that I'm willing to do some touch-up work or some detail work after the finishing if they don't like the way the finish turned out on the carving. So a cabinet maker is only interested in putting a finish on and getting the cabinet finished. He's not necessarily interested in highlighting a few items on your carving. They may, but they may not. So a lot of times I will come back in and do some finish work, and I'll write that in the contract. If the customer is not happy with the way the finish on the carvings was, I may do some work on them at their request after the cabinet maker's done the finish. So, another question in this, and what do you charge for this? Well, that depends. Obviously, if someone's going to commission you to do, like one that I'm currently working on, which is 20 pieces for a cabinet front, that is going to be a little bit higher dollar than the other. And I've talked about what I think is a reasonable wage. And it's kind of funny, over Thanksgiving, we were talking about that. My kids were here for Thanksgiving. They're all grown. And I threw out the comment that I thought in the video, and keep in mind I've got 2 artists in the group that are working artists, that $20 an hour was a reasonable amount to shoot for, and that was a good wage. And then if you weren't working for $20 an hour, you were getting cheated. And they all laughed at me and said that you just slammed everybody in this room. Everybody in this room is working for less than $20 an hour. And that was not my intent, and they picked on me all day long. I can assure you, in my real job, I make substantially more than $20 an hour. But it was not an intent to slam anybody. But if you're content with $10 an hour, that's fine. I just use 20 as a round kind of a reference. And then obviously I put in a lot more time in a lot of these projects than the hours that I thought I was going to put into it. So it's a give and take along that. So we're kind of coming up to the end here, and on this one. And like I said, this commission is this sample is complete. You've seen that at the beginning there. It's is a sample, and I will not do anything with the sample other than use it as a reference. When I carve the other 3, if it's approved by the customer, the requester of the commission, then I will do 3 individual carvings, and I'll do them at the same time. I'll do each element of this, and that way I'm not copying from one to the next one to the next one to the next one. If you're doing copies of a finished product, in my experience, some things always start to wander off. So in this case, there's 3 shields. There'll be duplicates, and I will do each particular element. I'll do the crest up on the top, which is the bird there. I'll do the knight, which I'm working on right there. I'll do the 2 stanchions on the left and the right, the griffin on the left, eagle on the right. Or I'm sorry, lion on the right, griffin on the left, and then we'll do the parts of the shield in the middle. But I would do each of those on each of the 3 pieces in order, and that way I'm using the same style, doing the same basic cuts. Now, one thing on a commission, I did 130 pieces for, they were 6 inches by 4 foot long, and they had roses on them, or a particular rose on them, for a theater, a Broadway theater in New York when we had the wood carving shop there. I can tell you, carving 130 of the exact same thing to be incorporated into various parts around the theater is a real pain in the butt, and it takes a lot of discipline. So be careful what you accept. Don't overbid a project, because give the customer a reasonable expectation, but don't underbid it either. So, and don't put yourself in a bind. Now, one of the things that I have in pricing is if the customer wants it really rapidly, you've seen these shows, these drama shows, where everything's got to be done. It's got to be turned in by Friday. See if you can realistically do that. You may be able to increase the price on your bid. Now you put the bid out there, and the customer decides whether to accept it or not. So here's some of the basics that we have going on when you're doing commission work, and I'm going to do a little bit more on this. I'm going to talk about some different elements of it. So, hey, if you haven't subscribed, by all means, please subscribe. I'm trying to build a channel up here on the subscription. Click like, comment, and send me any questions on that. My link is down below for my email. But there is a sample. It's not a finished product. It has a wax-coated tint on it. It has a regular Restorer's wax with a darker tint in there, and the piece is maple. So this has been Ben with Studio on the Lake, and that's the end of part 1. So like, comment, and by all means subscribe. Tell me what you think. Hey, thanks a lot. Have a good day.